Tafshin Mem a mimer from Parshat Bahar, ושבתה הארץ, Shabbos LaHashem, and I'm sorry, Tafshin Mem Vav, 1986. And it focuses right away at the beginning of our parsha. At the beginning of our parsha speaks about the mitzvah of Shemitah and how the Torah actually uses the terminology when speaking about Shemitah. It starts off, when you will come to the land that I am giving you, and the earth will have a Shabbos. The earth will cease from work. In other words, the laws of Shemitah. Then the pasuk goes on to say, 6 years you will sow your field, and 6 years you will work on your orchards, your vineyards. It's known the question about this is brought down in many places, especially in the Maimer, the Middle Rebbe that was recently printed in Tavshim Vav. They printed a Maimer of the Middle Rebbe that speaks about this question as well. When you understand the expression in the Maimer that says, when you will come to the land. And when you use that type of expression, when you will come to the land, it seems to indicate the mashma. It seems to indicate the miyad she'avoyu la'aretz, as soon as they come to the land, v'shavta la'aretz. The earth will cease, will have a shemitah. That doesn't make any sense. How is it possible that immediately there'll be the 7th year? If they didn't proceed 6 years prior to the year of Shemitah. Which because of Sheishan Tizar Sadach, as it says, 6 years you will sow. And then what does it say afterwards? And then afterwards it says, the 7th year will be a year of rest for the earth. Now, if you think about it and take it even further, we know that the Sukkim and the Torah are very exact. And the Torah doesn't say any extra words. After saying, Sheishan Tizar Sadach, it goes again, it says, B'shana Shvis. So this whole entire introduction of saying, Yisavoyu ala it'll be, V'shavta Shabbos LaHashem, it seems to be an extra pasuk that isn't even correct. In other words, it's not going to be immediate. First, you need to have the 6 years of Shemitah, then you can have the 7th year. And also, you're anyway going to talk about the 7th year in another pasuk. So this seems to be extra. Another question that I've asked, Gam, how does it say that the earth will rest? When you say when you come to the land, resting applies after an event that involved activity, toiling, work. Then the terminology of resting applies. V'shavta means cessation of rest. A cessation of work, stopping to do something. You see, it's in other things. You see, tashbisu soyer mebatechem, or you have vishbati chayram in Aretz. There has to be something that you're stopping it from. Allah Yedua, it's known. When is it applicable to say resting and ceasing? It's only applicable when you have work, when you have labor. Then we have work and labor. Then you could say v'shavta. In other words, the Hashem is addressing to you and said, take a rest, take a break. Take a break from what? We didn't do anything yet. How does he say that the earth could take a break? Since the pasuk did not state anything about any type of work or labor in the earth whatsoever. And therefore, so then the order of psukim should be as follows. It should have started saying, when you will come to the land, so then 6 years you will sow and plant and so on. And afterwards, in the 7th year, the earth will rest because there's something what to take a break from. But if there's no work, there's nothing to take a break. The Rebbe says we can add synthetically to this, the Beknis Allah is Yeshua, the first entrance to Eretz Yisrael, the first time around under Yeshua. In not only did they have to wait 6 years, and therefore it wasn't an immediate kisavoy al aretz v'shavta, but even more so, there was more than 6 years that they had to wait. El shagam lifnei zeh hayushav v'shalom shekavshu v'shav v'shalom shechaltu. Before they even started counting the 6 years, it was first the 7 years that they had to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Then once they conquered Eretz Yisrael, so then there was 7 years that they had to divide and get everybody settled. Only after the conquest and after the dividing of the land, and everybody settled down. Then there began the count of 6 years. You will sow your field. And only afterwards came the 7th year. In other words, 20 years had to pass from when the Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael until Shemitah was first observed. If it needs even more explanation, the expression, the pasuk, when you will come to the land, and the land will rest, will take a break. If it's how does it say? You'll come to Eretz Yisrael, the land will take a break. It was only 20 years after they came to Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe goes on to explain, the point of explanation this is, according to the well-known principle, the note that the beginning is embedded and staked out in the end, and the end is embedded in the beginning. This is an expression that we have throughout Chassidus, but it's actually initially from Sefer Yetzirah. This means notes the end and the conclusion of the matter is already embedded and found in its beginning. So there's going to be a very important point that the Rebbe is soon going to explain. There is a concept which we're going to see. I mean, the Rebbe doesn't point this out, but there's a concept that doesn't seem as powerful as Notz Klossen B'Seifel. We're going to say tonight in davening, Soif Maise B'Machshavat Chil. The end of your action arose in your thought first, which is in general the way we do things. We plan a certain activity, and there's many, many different steps until whatever that was that we planned comes to fruition. So we plan on building a house. There are many, many different steps. Getting the materials and getting the land and getting the workers, putting it together. So there's many, many different steps until that end picture that we had in our mind of that house, that Soif Maisa, that was the initial picture in our mind. My mind wasn't preoccupied initially with workers and land and materials. My first thing was, I want a house. So the end has to do with the beginning. Yet, the way the Maimer over here is going to talk about is even more so. It's not just that was planned in the beginning. It was what I envisioned in the beginning. The same thing by Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon was the final part of creation, but he was the whole purpose of creation. That's one of the simple meanings of that phrase, Soif Ma'aseh Machshavat Chila. But here we're going to talk about that even more so, that the actual end is to be found in the beginning. Let's see what that means. Because therefore he says over here in the pasuk, when you will come, etc. V'shavsa, the earth will rest immediately when the Eden come. Miyad betchilas biyasan aretz, immediately at the beginning of their arrival in Eretz Yisrael. Notes hasoif the b'shavsa aretz Shabbos Hashem. It's already embedded the end of the fact that the earth will rest and have a Shabbos for Hashem. It's like saying it's there already. Again, that's where the Rebbe is going to go with this. that it occurred as soon as the Yidden came about. We didn't see it, but it occurred already then. Valderach the leader is so too on the other side, the other hand. And that we say that the beginning is embedded in the end. I knew das call is called the beginning of everything. What is the beginning of everything? Like I said, it's the intention. I had in mind to build a house. That's the beginning of everything. That is the intention, and that is the purpose and goal. That because of that purpose, because of that goal. That's why we even began doing anything, the gathering materials, the land, and so on. In the utza behasoif, it's embedded in the end. What does that mean? It's embedded in the end. The miluyakavanu besoif, the fulfillment of the intention and the purpose, that is to be found at the end when you actually have the building. So that's what it says. That when you will come, the earth will rest, even though we said there's this whole 20 years in between. Take the Betchilas Ha'inyan immediately at the beginning of the matter. As soon as they come into Eretz Yisrael, V'hi hakavona v'atachlis, that at the beginning of anything is the intention and the purpose. No, it's already embedded in at the end that it will be the earth will have a rest and a Shabbos for Hashem. This matter comes down in everything in between. Until eventually that purpose is like in every step of the way, and therefore in the end finally becomes revealed the initial intent that he had at the beginning, the initial purpose that he had. Shabbos Hashem, that should be a rest for Hashem. But really, it's already present immediately at the beginning. So that's why we say, Kisavoyu al Arz v'shofsa Shabbos Hashem. That's the dream. That's the purpose. That's the goal. The goal is the Shabbos Hashem. The Rebbe goes on the third paragraph on the page. In close parshazu koya close. Always on the general idea of this parsha is going on the general service of a person today. The ultimate purpose of the avodah is Shabbos Hashem, that the earth should rest for Hashem. Meaning, what is the Shabbos Hashem in a person's avodah? The Yom Shekuli Shabbos and Menucha l'chayei today that's entirely Shabbos and rest forever and ever. Is that nifal idea avodah bin time b'shis al b'shnit hava alma? This is affected. How does this come about? How do we have the day that's considered the everlasting Shabbos? That's through the intermediate avodah. In between, we have the avodah of the 6,000 years that the world exists. The 6,000 years corresponds to and similar to the 6 years of the Shemitah, the Sheishan, the 6 years of the field, and the 6 years of the orchard of the vineyard. The Inyan saw the Kerem, the idea of a field, and a Kerem, Roim is Lebeis Eifan, Klolim Avodas Hashem, hinting at two general types of approaches in the service of Hashem. Top of the next page. So the Makim Gidl Alech field is a place where bread grows. Bread comes out of it. Like it says in the pasuk, Eretz Lechem, the earth that from it the bread comes out. So we see the idea of the field is about bread. Bread is called a staple. It's necessary for a person's life. It's a basic thing. Lechem, bread. Enkin kerem, as opposed to kerem. Kerem in Hebrew could be not just a vineyard, it could be an olive orchard as well. It could be used, the word kerem. It could be used for a vineyard, it could be used for an olive orchard. In Yonah, you will gadol anovim l'yayim v'zeisim l'shem. The idea of a vineyard is to replace the grapes grow to have wine, and then olives grows for oil. B'chlolos in general. Idea of a kerem, the idea of an orchard, who initial time represents the idea of delight, pleasure. The idea of pleasure and delight is something additional to what is the necessity, what is the basic necessities. Field, as we said, that's for bread, that's a staple, it's a basic necessity. A person can live without wine, he can live without oil. Bread is a necessity. The wine and the oil, that's for pleasure purpose. For the common times would be Allah. It's explained in many places. In the explanation of the language used, the birchas boyer nefashas, we say boyer nefashas, and we are thanking Hashem for two types of aspects of what we are eating. They're both hinted in boyer nefashas. That says boyer nefashas rabbis v'chesroinon. Why are you that you're creating many souls, and what they lack? Al kol mashabrosa, for everything that you created, lahachyos, to give life. So, what is these two ideas, chesroinon and lahachyos? The chesroinon, things that they lack, things that they are missing. These are referring, and we are giving thanks for things that are necessary for a person's existence. In the case of Bayer Nefashos, that would be like water. Lahachios means to give an enhanced state of life, a greater living enjoyment. Koyal Vorm Shaltainu is referring to matters of delight and enjoyment. So just like we have the Birchas Bayer Nefashos, we have these two things. We have the same things about the field, and we have the orchard. That's what they represent. Now, we were talking about the 6 years, it's talking about the 6,000 years that's leading to V'shavta Shabbos Lashem, the idea of Mashiach's times. It says, but therefore we must say that the work in the field and the work in the vineyard, these are two types of avodah that brings to the Shabbos and Menucha L'chayei Lamim of Mashiach's times, V'shavta Aretz. Avodah is in our spiritual service to Hashem and Beis and Yom the Torah mitzvahs. These are the two aspects of Torah mitzvahs. The B'chlolos Kiyum HaMitzvahs in general, fulfillment of mitzvahs, which mitzvahs also includes in it Gam mitzvahs Talmud Torah, even though we're going to contrast Torah versus mitzvahs. But there's the mitzvah component of Torah learning. It's no different than any other mitzvah. That's like a staple. It's like bread. It's like the field. These are things we must do. Limud Torah, and then there is Torah study beyond what is the basic obligation, beyond what is necessary for what he's going to talk about now, just to be able to know what to do. When he's not studying Torah because he just needs to know, he needs to know, what am I supposed to do? What mitzvahs do I have? And then what mitzvahs am I supposed to observe by not doing? That is all part of the staple part of learning Torah. Then there's a part of learning Torah that's beyond the necessity to be able to know how to perform mitzvahs, but rather Torah study just for its own sake. That is the idea of delight. So here he's dividing mitzvahs in general. It's called a staple, like bread, the field, and Torah study beyond the basic is considered delight, like wine and oil, the orchard. Then the Rebbe divides it even further. So too, it's in details, in more specifics, that you can find in the mitzvahs, both of these levels, the staple aspect of the mitzvah and the delight aspect of the mitzvah. And the same thing in Torah. The mitzvahs, he says, fulfilling the mitzvah as it is by the letter of the law, what a person needs to do according to halacha, that's what's necessary. That's the basic needs. That's the staple of the mitzvah. Then the kiyuma behida, fulfilling the mitzvahs with extra beauty, with going beyond the letter of the law. That's like the light. It's not necessary. It's not obligatory. It's like the wine and the oil. And so too, like we actually already explained earlier. In Torah, there's two types of Torah. In the limit of Torah, they laid out some the study of Torah to be able to know the actions that we need to do, etc. That's a staple. That's necessary. If you don't learn, like it says in Pirkei Avos, if you don't know, you can't be pious. You can't observe Torah mitzvahs. It's a basic necessity. But at the other hand, Torah, another aspect of Torah, in addition to knowing the halacha, there's an aspect of Torah that's considered a staple. It's a davar mukher. And so too, the study of Torah, that it is part of the 248 positive commandments. So it's like any other mitzvah. It's a staple. I got to put on tefillin. I got to put on mezuzah. I got to eat kosher. I need to learn Torah daily, at least, like it says, Perikach Shachris, Perikach Arvis, one chapter in the morning, one chapter in the evening, etc. As opposed to Torah study in the way of increasing Torah and glorifying Torah, which is also called Drosh v'Kabel Schar. Just darshan, just to receive reward, beyond, like we say, the staple part of Torah. Just for the fact that the Torah is Hashem's wisdom. That's the idea of delight. Now, once we've said that in Torah mitzvahs there's these two levels, now we can understand how this has to do with the preparation for Mashiach, the Veshvata, Shabbos Lashem that comes through it. This is also why it first says 6 years you just sow your field, and afterwards it talks about the orchard. The Gam say also the order in this pasuk is exact. That he first starts off with the field, and which is the staple. Then he goes off with the delight. First, we need to have the avodah in matters that are of necessity, which is the field. And afterwards has to be the avodah in matters that are matters of delight, keder, the orchard. And then, once we do our avodah in both type of levels, the earth will rest and have a Shabbos lavayim. After the perfection of the avodah in all these matters, we reach the intention that was in all of these matters. What was the intention initially? That should be a Shabbos to Hashem. Today, it's entirely Shabbos and rest forever and ever. In this itself, they say, that the end is embedded in the beginning, and the beginning is embedded in the end. Already at the beginning, even before we began the 6 years, it says right away, Shabbos Lavaya, that the earth will have a rest for Avai. So, if you remember earlier, I said that the Maimer later will explain how, to what degree, the end and the beginning are embedded in each other. That's what he's going to talk about right now. Possible to say in more in-depth way. In the explanation, this matter of how the beginning is embedded in the end, and because of that, the parsha begins with right away with Shabbos Lavaya, before even talking about the 6 years. The Rebbe says like this: according to the simple sense, without deeper examination, how do we understand this phrase that the beginning is embedded in the end? There are two separate things. Initially, there's the intention that preceded the action. I wanted to have a house. House doesn't exist yet, but it's my intention to have a house. And then eventually, after everything that I've done in between, after X amount of time, I finally have the house in actuality. That my intention, my purpose, what my picture, my mind was that I had done. And that's what we said is the meaning of Soif Ma'aseh Machshavat Chila. V'hainu, in this interpretation of Notes Chelos and V'Soifan, what does it mean? What's embedded in the beginning? What part of the end is in the beginning? In the beginning, V'hainu D'Mash Notes, but Chilo Raka Kavona V'Arotzim Echvi. What is embedded in the beginning is only the intention and the will about how it should be, but it's not actually there. Eventually, this in actuality, this is done at the end. Similar to what's explained in Ramar of Rosh Hashanah concerning the intention of the creation. When was Hashem's delight revealed in the creation? After the 6 days of creation on Shabbos, that's when his delight was revealed because the work was done. That is the way we would have thought. Over here, there's the meaning that the end is embedded in the beginning. The Rebbe says, we could say even deeper, not just the intention is to be found at the beginning. The actual goal, the actual purpose, the matter itself that's going to become revealed at the end, it exists already at the beginning. Notes. That's why it says from the word notes. It's like you put a stake in the ground, like you knocked something in, you embedded it in it. He translates in Yiddish as arrangestellt und arrangesteckt. It's placed into and stuck into the end and the goal and the purpose itself is already there in the beginning. At the beginning of the matter, actually has the end. Since this end is already embedded and found already in the beginning, at the top of the last page, so it's not just in the beginning, but through the beginning, the entire thing that's going on throughout the whole process has the end already embedded in it because it received it like from the beginning. Names it comes out and the entire matter that you are doing, there's already found over there and embedded over there the end and its purpose and its goal. We can explain this according to what's understood in the Ramar of Rosh Hashanah concerning Hashem's intention in the creation, which it was that Hashem desired to have a home down here below. Since there is a delight above from the home down here, this enjoyment that Hashem has in the creation, it flows down and it's drawn down the entire chain order of descent. Why is that necessary? So a person should not feel weakened. In other words, if a person is motivated to do something, why? Because the enjoyment that he will feel in the end, like backflows into now as well, so that gives him the energy that he doesn't come tired and discouraged by it, because the energy and the excitement and the delight of the end is motivating and being felt now as well. Until we finally have the actual revelation of the delight in the fulfillment of the intention. The ray of the delight that Hashem had in the purpose of creation shines throughout every level of Seder Ishtalshlus, and it like energizes them to participate in the process, to go on in the process of the Seder Ishtalshlus. That's the Shloimer Binyanenu, similar to this, we could say in our topic about the Shabbos Lashem that says right away at the beginning of our parsha, the Mekivan Shasoi Vataklis notes Baskol, since the end of the purpose and goal is already embedded in the beginning. It means the end itself is already found over there in the beginning. And throughout all the processes that are in between. So in no, it's Seifim with Kolosim with Seifim. That's what means the end is embedded in the beginning. The beginning is embedded in the end. Time the end itself is embedded in the beginning, and it's also the other way around, that the beginning is embedded in the end and throughout everything else. For this is also understood in the service of a person. The be'es avodas adam b'chol yom the sheisham tizu sadaka v'sheisham tizu mecharmecha, and throughout the avodah of a person in all the matters of the 6 years that you will sow your field and you will take care of your orchards, or at least nikar loyrak shatach v'sushi Shabbos Hashem. It has to be recognizable, not just to keep our mind and see what the goal is, that it should be the Shabbos Lashem, El Shavoida Zu Atzmei Boy from the Shabbos Lashem. In the Avoida itself, of those 6 years, of the 6,000 years that the world exists, of the Avoida of Torah mitzvahs, both in the staple aspect and going in the enjoyable aspect of it, has to be recognizable, the purpose, the goal. It's not two separate things. I do my Avoida, and then there's the Shabbos that Hashem promises us. No. Like I said about the elder Shammai, every day of the week he was eating L'Kavod Shabbos. How every day of the week did he eat L'Kavod Shabbos? That way he found a nice animal that he would use to serve for a Shabbos meal. He said, "Oh, this is beautiful. I'm putting it away for Shabbos." Then he went to the next day to the market and he found a better animal. So he ate that one today, and the other one he saved for Shabbos. So it comes out that what he ate during the week was only to enable him that on Shabbos you should have a better meal. So already during the week, he was cognizant and experiencing and connecting with Shabbos. Already in the week, the Avodah, he had already the Avodah and the concept of Shabbos. Since the Avodah of Yid is in the most perfect sense, it's sure should be and the days of the week we always find a good portion, a beautiful portion. And we say that this is for Shabbos. In other words, in our avodah we say, wow, this is a Mashiach type of thing. I see how this is supposed to bring Mashiach's time. This is our general actions of service throughout the 6,000 years that the world exists. All the revelations of the future times depend on our actions and our service. In such a way that 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you take care of your orchard. In such a way that right at the beginning, the end is already embedded over there. That the end and the intention this is that it should be that the earth should rest for Hashem. The Elif Hashvi in the 7th millennium. It's a day that's entirely Shabbos and rest forever. This is already found now in the Avodah. That's what we explained about the end being embedded in the beginning. The Ratzon should be the will of Hashem. From this we should come to the actual revelation of the end. In actuality, through our avodah in the time of Golus. The car of Mamash al Gulam Mitzvah Shlem will come speedily to the true and complete redemption until the ultimate perfection of it. To the day that's entirely Shabbos and rest forever and ever.